I realized I really wasn't happy doing that. So I became almost depressed and had to take some time off from university for a semester, moved back to Stockholm to my parents. And it wasn't me. I was trying to force something upon myself that was coming from like the environment I was in. It was scary because you're kind of weaker as a person when you're young. You're a lot more concerned about like what your friends think of you and how you fit into society. Obviously like not having a normal corporate career was like kind of scary, deviating from the normal route. So it was not completely risk-free. I felt that it was pretty scary.
Some people are driven by intensity, fast growth, fast success, fast validations. But what interests me more is the ability to stay committed, to keep improving, keep refining over a very long time, even when progress is slower than expected, even when things become uncertain or exhausting. Because building something over years requires a very different kind of motivation and drive. And maybe this real ambition is not always loud. Sometimes it looks like patience, discipline, consistency. And today I really want to explore this mindset together with Sebastian Ohrn.
So I started Myrkvist about 8 years ago now, and currently a CEO. So that means I get to do most things and been building this company for pretty much all of my professional life. So the idea of Myrkvist came to life during my time at university, thinking about what to do with my life and career after graduating. And I always knew that I was going to be an entrepreneur, but it was not necessarily obvious what that was going to be. And I had quite a personal interest in footwear and menswear in general. I was actually in the process of buying some Goodyear welted shoes for myself, and I came into the process of researching the market, and I could not really perfectly understand why it would cost so much to buy a pair of Goodyear welted shoes, and started to dig into the underlying cost of that, and found out that most of what composes the consumer price is actually made up of retailer margin. I thought maybe you could look at doing something differently here, do like a direct consumer business model. So that was basically the idea, to create a really good quality piece of shoe with nice design at a very compelling price.
The way you actually started it, right? It was crowdfunding.
We did a Kickstarter campaign just before it became not a very, like, when we did it, you could still actually do like a genuine Kickstarter campaign and people would join and like want to participate in your project. But I think a few years after that, it became quite difficult, and it was difficult to crowdfund. But yes, you're correct. We did a crowdfunding campaign in 2016, and we started selling in 2017 or end of 2016.
So you were not really afraid, right, of failing, or that was not really kind of in your thoughts? Just kind of like, okay, let's have a go and let's try it out.
Yes and no. I think at the time, actually, it wasn't so easy as it might appear on the outside. I was at university, and I was, before the idea of Myrkvist came into my head, I had actually started to look at corporate careers, taking job interviews at investment banks and consulting firms. I realized I really wasn't happy doing that. So I became almost depressed and had to take some time off from university for a semester, moved back to Stockholm to my parents, and try to figure out why I wasn't really feeling that well. And after some time, one of the conclusions is that like it wasn't me. I was trying to force something upon myself that was coming from like the environment I was in. So I think that gave me the courage to actually try to do something creative and entrepreneurial and start something on my own. That gave me the confidence to do it. Also having a university degree and doing it, like, first off, it might feel scary at the time, but I think it's actually probably a lot less risk doing it initially, because when you're at that age, you probably don't have a family, you don't have that high requirements of your living situation and so on. So you probably take a lot less risk than if you were to do it from like a corporate career and you worked for 10 years and then you have a family or something, like you have other commitments. Then I mean, I don't know what's right or what's wrong, but just reflecting on it, like doing it when you're relatively young, in a way, is less risky. But it was scary because you kind of weaker as a person when you're young. At least for my, like looking at myself back at the time, you're a lot more concerned about like what your friends think of you and how you fit into society, and obviously like not having a normal corporate career was like kind of scary, deviating from the normal route. So it was not completely risk free. I felt that it was pretty scary.
I wouldn't have guessed that. I thought it was kind of, but who was it your mother or your father who kind of put in the kind of like, or was it someone else in your surrounding who helped you kind of like, okay, let's go for it? Or was it just kind of fun that just the break kind of make you realize that you have that? Or was it kind of someone motivating you or kind of giving you some cool and good advice?
Well, I think my father has always been supportive and was positive to the idea. I did the Kickstarter campaign. We gave it a try, and obviously like the Kickstarter campaign gave us confidence that, okay, we had a target goal of 100,000 SEK, which is like 10,000 euros. And I think we received around 70,000 euros. So we felt we had something to go on, and so it was worth a try. And then gradually things just grew. We like, each month we sold a bit more, and then so you start out small, you try, and you build confidence from there.
Was it just kind of you starting and kicking it off, or did you have already, and then also when you actually did the campaign, some co-founders with you?
So at the very beginning, I brought in two very junior people at the time, straight out from high school, Olle and Masar, who both of them you've met. And I actually kept in touch with one of my teachers from my high school, and I asked him, okay, who are the, like, give me like the top two names of like, who are the most suitable students, you know, who want to try to do some work before they go into university or whatever. So they were young, they were hungry, they were super excited to get to work. And yeah, now, and they stayed around. Both of them have had like, for example, Masar, he's done another job and come back, and Olle has done a law degree and come back. But now they're all back in the company, and they're partners in the firm, and yeah, they're a core part of the team still.
So when was it exactly the year you started? 2017?
Kickstarter campaign in 2016, and then we started selling in December, January.
And the initial concept was producer to consumer directly, right?
Yes.
And you're still doing that to some degree, but you have started now to do it a little bit different as well, right?
Well, slightly differently. So let me put it this way. The idea of doing direct to consumer was based on the assumption that we could deliver a better product at a better price than our competition. So as much high quality shoe as possible per dollar spent, in other words. And I think that is the core, and that is what still is the underlying North Star and mission of our company. We want to be able to offer as much price value as possible. And we have realized that's not exclusively tied to the direct-to-consumer model. We actually do have some really nice partnerships with, for example, NK and Carl and some other resellers. They account for a relatively small part of our business, and they also help us build our business and expand into new markets.
One of the things which I was always quite impressed is because, you know, you started off, I mean, you had an interest in shoes, but you were not an expert in how to produce and how to design and all these kind of things.
but you kind of keep pushing and you come out all the time with new ideas. And then there's kind of, for me, is a little bit, where do you get the kind of the curiosity and to keep it going and coming up with new ideas, and how does that process look like? Because you really need to reinvent, right? And then there's the trends, and then there's the menswear style, which is not that kind of moving that fast. So there is some basics which just really remain the same. And how do you kind of handle that? I mean, it's also a little bit of pressure thing, right?
Yeah, I think we see ourselves as creating a relatively timeless product. So as you mentioned, we see trends are moving pretty slowly in our industry, which is thankful from a business perspective. We really try to refine our product line and like incrementally tweak and improve our product season after season or year after year. So buy better leather, or improve the design or the fit or the last or the shape or the sole. And I think using customer feedback, I think we've created a fantastic product now. Like our shoes today are like remarkably better, improved from 5 years ago. So I hope that if anyone listens here who hasn't bought shoes from us but did it back in the days, have a look again. You'll be surprised.
Yeah, I'm always recommending them whenever I'm wearing them, that they should have a look, especially my Swedish friends, obviously, that they can actually go by your shops. But I mean, the creativity in that context, I mean, and the drive and the learning involved in that. I mean, you buy the leather in Italy, right?
Not necessarily all in Italy, but we have some suede from Italy, and we worked with French tanneries and British tanneries. So it's all within Europe, but it differs a bit.
Okay. I mean, now you have different kind of versions, right? You have winter boots, you have quite heavy boots, you have kind of thinner models, you have loafers, you have sneakers. Is it all the same producers that you do that? Or where are you kind of like, how do you find the producers who are helping you to create the products that you want to?
So all of our shoes are produced in Portugal, and most of the factories in Portugal are then concentrated to the northern region of Portugal. But we don't do everything in the same factory. We try to work with specialists on each construction. So one factory that we work with for doing Goodyear welted shoe is not the same that we work with for doing like cemented sneakers, for example. They have different specialities and are specialized in different craftsmanship. So the type of factory is dependent on the construction. But then we do work closely with the subcontractors, or rather the suppliers of materials and components. And sometimes, or often, or always, when applicable, we use the same leathers across the factory. So if you buy suede loafers that are Goodyear welted, it will be the same material as if you buy like a suede sneaker.
When you kind of look at the whole kind of process of producing and coming up with new models, and I mean, you have also had some really cool collaborations, right? Is the motivation behind it, and keep it up and keep your kind of energy up and going, and also within the team. Have you kind of implemented some dedicated strategies? Just to put it a little bit in context, I have talked to a Swiss guy. He is also an entrepreneur. He has started different kind of startup organizations, political movements. He has now started also being active in politics. And his kind of goal, the kind of measure was he created a 3 or 5 year plan, kind of narrow, and with setting goals, then putting that into yearly goals, and then kind of, breaking it down to quarterly goals. And then every weekend, 1 hour, he reflects on those goals, and he's kind of measuring himself. That's one way of doing it, right? Yeah. And then we had I had a surf professional who was much more kind of like focused to be in the now and to kind of take it, be present and doing yoga and breathing actions and stuff like that, to keep him kind of like mellow, let's put it that way, and keeping him stable to actually keep pushing forward, learning, improving, right? So what is your secret? Is it South Africa?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's definitely a combination of the both, not just like physical health is for sure critical for me. The past few years, I've done a significant improvement. Just comparing myself to maybe 2 years ago, I went from snoozing a box of, tobacco. Snooze is like a Swedish tobacco product, for those who don't know, having like an entire box a day and maybe, drinking every other day. Today, I'm more or less not drinking. I don't snooze. I work out every day. I try to sleep quite well. I'm off my sleeping med, so and I can definitely feel a difference. It's given me a lot of more productive hours and an energy throughout the day. But I wouldn't say that's my secret, because it worked out before as well. It's just better now. I think really the core for me is doing something I enjoy. And I'm sure it's very individual, and I'm quite impressed by people who do boring companies, because I couldn't do it. Like, imagine selling toilet paper or something.
Mm.
I mean, just selling I love the product we do. I love the brand. So just being able to be in this environment every day and doing and working with like a product and brand that you love it's amazing.
Because you kind of mentioned the motivation and the people of participating, because it seems that you have quite a good hand in that as well, right? Because of the people that have stayed long with you. What is your kind of secret in that, selecting your team members and keeping that spirit high?
Yeah, I think, as you mentioned initially, selecting is quite important. I believe. Well, I do hope that I can learn to be better at like leading and training people. But given where I am now and in my relatively short 8-year experience, I've come to realize it's very important that you hire the right people for the right positions, and make sure that you all in the team share the same values and have the same mindset. Because it's all about being very synced. If you're not in sync, there's friction. And if there's friction, there will be a number of bad outcomes from that. Individually for each person that's part of the friction, but also for the team and the dynamics. So I think it's very important to make sure you can manifest the values and the mindset of the company and make sure that everyone shares them. And once you found those people who are a good fit on those two criteria, I think you can be trying to involve everyone and be transparent, both with the strategic plans of where you're going as a company, but also the financial plans. Make sure each employee, as long as you're comfortable doing it, like I'm sure some companies have some type of safe walls, but as far as possible, just make sure you are transparent and share the strategy, financial goals, and connect everyone's work to the overall goals of the company. So make sure that people can see what their KPIs are. They have clear goals and their KPIs are contributing to the financial performance of the company. And that will be in turn then connected to their own work and what they do.
So one of the crucial kind of difficult years, I mean, you weren't that super big when actually COVID hit, right? How did you manage that with because it was still quite a young company. It was 3 years old.
Yeah.
How was it for you guys, and what, how did you mentally kind of work with that? Because it was also quite difficult. There was never really an end of it in the beginning, right?
No, it was brutal, to be honest. I think it's not necessarily that easy to know what was going on, but to tell you some aspects of it, I also feel like we had the worst possible setup for COVID. So we were a relatively new company doing formal shoes, like dress shoes. We didn't even really have sneakers at the time. So we did shoes that people were supposed to wear in the office or at weddings or other big social gatherings. And those were three main like target areas for selling, and it practically became illegal, you know. Everyone was going to work from home and you cannot go to any parties. So why would you buy dress shoes? The global market went down 84% in 2019 in 2020 compared to 2019. 84% is a lot.
Yes.
And what was sold at a significant discount. Like, I'm talking about the industry as a whole. So we picked like a really, not necessarily like we picked, but we were really in an unfortunate product category. Probably it would be worse if you were like working a hotel business, I guess. But on top of that, we were a new business, so we couldn't really get any support from the government, because all of the government support were kind of based on a criteria that you have to show what revenue you had a few years back and give comparable numbers. And we didn't have that. So it didn't fit for us. It was more made for big companies. So we had to fight this out by our own. And third, the COVID came in February 2020, right? And we had opened up our first physical store. Well, it was not our first physical store, but we had opened up the current flagship store in Stockholm on Jakobsbergsgatan just 4 months earlier. And physical retail wasn't very hot during COVID either. So we had really three big factors working against us, and it became a very challenging year, or years rather.
Did you sleep well during that period, or what?
No.
You know, exactly. There's only a few things, and you didn't let that many people go either, right?
I haven't slept well until like this week.
Okay.
Since in a grown-up age, I think.
Okay.
Like actually, literally this week, I'm completely off my sleeping medication.
All right. Yeah. Okay. But I mean, that's a good news, right?
Yeah.
So South Africa, the sun helped as well to get into that.
I think so. Yeah.
And you have now. I mean, you overcame COVID, and now you have. I mean, you have been one of the hottest scale-ups, right? And you have actually gotten a finance round, which is also pretty cool. You have now opened shops in London, in Oslo. Yeah. So business is booming. So you have never felt happier.
Well, on the scale-up list that you mentioned, I actually haven't read the full article because it's behind a paywall, and I just unfortunately I'm too cheap to subscribe to it. But from what I understand, it's the companies that grow the most but have profitable growth. So that's the two criteria. Like the highest profitable growth for scale-up companies in Sweden, we're one of them. And I think the word profitable makes a lot of sense when it comes to sleep, because you sleep so much better when you're profitable compared to when you're not. That's a huge difference, and it makes work a lot more fun. In the end, it comes down to product. We've been constantly working tirelessly to create the best price value shoe possible. And I think a great product, regardless of what industry, creates massive organic growth and also repeat customers. And that also, like, so making a good product, improving the product, combine that with some time, and I think you'll have a growing business. We pay like a serious amount of attention to detail and constantly improving our product. Masar, my colleague, who's product, like head of product development, he's really digging into the details and looking at like every little seam and every bit and piece of the sole and what materials we use and the correct nuance. And it's difficult there and then maybe to make a business decision about it, but like eventually it all adds up and creates a better experience that will drive growth.
So in terms of the going forward, so what are the plans and what are your plans? Now it's Oslo. The last job was Oslo, right? That you just opened.
Yeah, so we were actually in the middle of like making the shop fit and everything. So we haven't opened it. It's gonna open it in probably in May. I cannot reveal an exact date yet because, you know, building stuff, it's never very 100% certainty. So, but later this spring, it will open up, and we're doing some hectic work there. So we did the London store opening last year, this year Oslo, and I think that paints a picture of a retail strategy. Our online sales are growing a lot as well, so I think we're gonna like continue working with that balance. Apart from that, we're gonna continue just incrementally building on what we have, create a better product, a better price, better offering, and grow the company, improve our margins, and allow us to be the global leader in our category.
Have you any kind of new collaborations that you have in store? Because I missed the Bostad sneaker. I love that one.
Yeah,
I really love that the little bit off white. That's one of the ones that I need to get at some time.
Yeah. So the thing is that we've done a few cool design collaboration, but it takes a lot of time and effort doing that. So right now we don't have any specific collaborations in the like nearby in the pipeline. And the Björn Borg Båstad sneaker that we did, that was about a year ago. So lately we've been focusing more on refining our own product, like making sure the core, like upgrading the core assortment. And, you know, it's all about the fine details again, but, you know, making an updated last to improve the fit or the shape of the shoe, and even doing like our improved packaging. I don't know if you like things that create the overall brand experience. All of those different touch points that creates a better experience and will continue to drive our growth.
I was hoping that you're kind of announcing something really cool.
Well, no, I cannot like announce.
I'm a little bit disappointed. You know, kind of the Audi thing. I still love. Whenever whenever I have that on, and I have it often, especially when I go to Italy, and I'm going actually in 2 weeks again down there, so I will have that driving shoe. How do you go about that when you have the partnerships and this kind of thing? How do you find that? Or is that kind of were they asking you, for example, now Audi or with the with Jon, for example, where you did a special thing, or Björn Borg? How does that go about?
Well, I think it's actually just been personal relationships that has developed, or even from the beginning, it could have been customers who we've connected with. Then eventually the idea has grown. With the Björn Borg, for example, I reached out to Henrik Bunge, who is the CEO of Björn Borg, and that was a few years ago, and there was like no intention at the time to do a collaboration. I just thought he seemed to be an interesting company leader, and I wanted just to network. So I asked him if he wanted to have lunch, and he was like, "Yeah, but we have to work out first." So I had to meet him for the first time in the gym at his office, and he like made me so exhausted. He's probably like 15, 20 years older than I am, but he's like so physically fit. It's insane. And so I think he just wanted to like exhaust me and then have lunch and then we could talk. So anyways, that was the start of a good friendship or getting to know him at least. And then we stayed in touch, and then one idea, we just started talking about an idea of making something a bit more, retro tennis inspired together, and it all came together as this cool tennis retro shoe. Yeah.
We have now talked a lot about your company, and I think it's what comes through for me especially is actually the kind of the enthusiasm, exactly, and the thing what you said, and it's probably a little bit not, it's kind of, you love what you do, right? And that is actually motivating and keeping you sane and inspired actually throughout that process. But if you think now a young guy is approaching you and has a new idea of whatever kind of product, physical product, underwear, or I don't know, socks, or suits or shoes, what would be your advice to him?
I think there are 2, maybe 3 things that I could mention. And first of all, it would be careful or cautious about who you take advice from, especially when you're young and you're inexperienced. You think that people, just because they're older than you, they're right, or they would know more than you do. That's not necessarily true in your whatever particular line of work or your field that you're doing. I think you should be careful. And for example, if you're talking to a marketing expert, you should take advice about marketing from that person, but you don't need to take advice about fundraising from a marketing person, right?
No.
So be like a bit careful who you take advice from, because in my experience, there's been a lot of bad advice out there, and I'm happy I didn't follow all of them. Some of them I did. Secondly, I would say, and it slightly ties together, but try to really focus on the core or the fundamentals of the business. There will always be opportunities to try new things. And I think during the first few years of Myrkvist, we sometimes did a mistake of trying to hack our way into growth, so to speak, or trying to figure out the new marketing spin or marketing hack or the growth hack, but really we should have just spent that time on making a great product and have normal marketing, and just not like try to do something. We tried to do these small projects, and it just ended up like not. We were hoping for like a hockey stick. And just. I just wish we could have, stayed to the core and incrementally improved, like increase our margin, lower the cost here. Every month you do something a little bit better, improve the product. So make sure you know precisely what is the core offering and business that you have, and work on that rather than trying to be best at something else.
I like that a lot. I think that even applies not even to physical products, but in general, whatever kind of like what you do, especially in sales or business development. Now you have all these kind of people and companies throwing things around that you can earn more money faster, and you only have to follow those 5 steps, and exactly growth hacking and hockey stick and get super rich in only 6 months and stuff like that, which I don't believe in, right? Exactly. So I like this a lot, that the focus exactly on your core and kind of make that a great product makes a lot of sense to me. So what is your plan for the next few years of Myrkvist? What is world domination? No, exactly. But it's expansion, kind of slow but steady expanding in Europe. Is US or Asian market? Is that something you have in mind?
Well, as you said, the idea is to continue our growth and continue increasing our profit margins. So becoming like a big global company is ultimately what we'd like to do, and not just because of the sake of doing that. Like, it ties into our mission statement, providing high quality footwear at a good price. Because once we reach a larger scale as a company, we will be able to provide an even better product at an even better price. So it's really about continuing that mission. And in terms of markets, we are currently online in most international markets, like some larger than others. Like, we sell to the US, but we also get orders from Japan or Korea. Physically, we're doing Norway this year. And yeah, we're looking at opportunities going in a bit more dedicated online or offline in other markets, but I cannot really reveal all our plans.
No, you don't need that.
What I found interesting about Sebastian is that he never really talks about success in an emotional way. He talks more about the process, about the improvement, the structure, the margin, the products. And maybe that is exactly why the company keeps growing. Because underneath all the expansion, the stores, the collaborations, the growth, there seems to be a genuine love and attachment to the craft itself. Not just the outcome, not the financial results. And I think that changes the psychological game of it completely. Because when the motivation becomes external, growth is never enough, right? But when it is something genuinely part of the process, so intrinsic, you love what you're actually doing, the work itself becomes sustainable. And maybe that is what long-term ambition actually looks like. Not intensity, but endurance and the love of what you actually do. This is mental.